Let's bring in our regular security and international affairs expert, James Brown. James, how do you see NATO right now in terms of how it moves through their various differences? Because they, as our reporter there, our colleague in the UK suggested, there are quite a few right now.
Yeah, look, there are. The good news is that the message that America has been delivering to NATO, that the Allies need to lift their game on defence spending, has been heard. There's a number of countries that are increasing their defence budgets, still not as many as the US would like at 2% of GDP, which is the target they've set NATO allies for some time. But Norway is a great example. They've increased their defence budget by 8% this year. That will take them to 1.8% of GDP in 2020. So the message is getting through. The bad news is they've still got a lot of problems internally to deal with, not only the ones that President Macron has pointed to, but also how they're going to deal with Turkey at this summit, a NATO ally who has been drifting a long way from the alliance. That will be one of the key issues that forms the backdrop for these discussions.
And we've already seen President Macron and Erdogan trading barbs. It seems like this could turn into quite a heated NATO meeting.
Look, it has the potential to, and don't forget it's occurring in the context of the last couple of weeks of the UK election. So it'll be interesting to see what impact, if any, that has on those discussions, and particularly whether President Trump will make any comments on Boris Johnson's campaign and the election. But this summit really needs to be focused on how NATO is countering the Russian threat, how it is countering the very active operations by Russia, and how it is preparing itself for the future. And those internal differences are going to make that discussion very hard.
So when you look at Donald Trump and his view of NATO, but more generally multilateralism broadly, he's put that defence requirement on allies, but will that be sufficient to get him on board with it generally? Because it seems to me that he is quite sceptical about the benefits of these sort of multilateral groupings more broadly.
Look, he's deeply sceptical, and we've seen his instincts in terms of getting allies to subsidise the US security umbrella more and more. I mean, he's turned the screws on Korea, upping considerably the amount of money that they need to pay to support US basing there, and he's talked about doing the same in Japan. So I think he can be convinced that allies provide utility to the United States, and he's got certainly enough people around him in the military and the State Department and in his personal staff talking to him about what allies can provide and why they're important. But he just can't shake this sense that everybody is free riding on US power, military and economic strength, and that's been happening for far too long.
It does always seem to play well for him, though, when he does go overseas and crack the whip, push his America First idea. It always plays well at home, and this is at a time when he's facing increasing pressure with the impeachment inquiry.
Well, this visit is well timed. You're right. He will be on a message that does resonate not only with his voters, but also, I think, with a large chunk of people who don't vote for him. This sense that the US is sending too much money overseas and should be investing more of it at home. So he'll be right on point with that through Tuesday and Wednesday this week, and we're expecting those impeachment inquiries to start on Wednesday. We'll get the witness list sometime later tonight, Australia time, and that'll tell us who the Democrats intend to call before the House Judiciary Committee to start laying out their case for why President Trump should be impeached and convicted.
How have you seen it playing out generally in terms of 2020? Because you look at the rallies he attends and they're full, his base so engaged, and the Democrats still have this Melbourne Cup field. He seems to be very well placed for re-election right now.
Look, there's no reason to think he won't be re-elected right now. The things that need to break against him and break in favour of the Democrats are not happening. The economy is not slipping. The Democrats are not coalescing around a single candidate. And importantly, impeachment doesn't seem to be changing the minds of Americans. We've seen the polling slip back slightly on the question of should the president be impeached, or will the president being impeached change your vote? Initially, we saw numbers in terms of support of the impeachment process 50, 55%. Now we're seeing that slip back into the 40s. So there are some signs that this Democrat positioning on impeachment is actually not delivering them the electoral result they need to get.
Well, still a long way to go. James Brown, thank you for your time.